You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, a workshop session of the Michigan City Board of Works and Safety from February 14th. You can get more information for this meeting by going to www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. Today's date is February 14th, 2023. This is the Board of Works workshop on the opening of Franklin Street to two-way traffic from 9th to 4th Street. Having said that, I'm going to turn this program over to Brad Minnick, engineer, and Skylar York. They're going to give us a presentation, and after which we will have public comment.
Good afternoon. Brad Minnick, Premier Engineers. I've also got Matt Villanueva, our lead designer for the project, with us as well, and he's going to walk us through it. Did you have any opening comments, Skylar?
Just a few. Good afternoon, Michigan City. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Skylar York. I'm the Director of Planning and Redevelopment for the city. This is a project that we have been talking about for many years. It's been talked about. It's been in the works and a lot of plans that we've put together. Tonight we're here to just we've hired Brad Minnick as our city engineer, contractual engineer with the city. Tonight we're here to show you what we are proposing for the one-way street to be converted to a two-way street on Franklin Street between 9th and 4th Street. So without further ado, I'll hand it back over to Brad. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Skylar.
So Matt will run through the presentation here and just stop us at any time as questions come up. We'll address them with the different exhibits and so forth. So.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Again, Matt Villanueva. I'm also with Premier Engineers. Put together the slides, so I'll be happy to answer any questions. Feel free to stop at any time, like Brad mentioned. If you have any questions on the design, we do have a slot at the end to ask more specific questions. We'll also have the plans up on the wall over here that you can look at a little bit closer, and we'll be happy to answer questions at that time also. So just for formality, I'd like to go over the agenda. So we're going to go over the project location, the overview. We're going to go over the existing conditions. We'll go over the proposed improvements, the challenges and the advantages of this project, and then ultimately open it up for open discussion and questions from the group. Okay. All right, so might be a little bit hard for you guys to see. Essentially, this is just showing the project location. As mentioned, the improvements is going to be limited to Franklin Street between 10th or 4th Street and 10th Street. To convert the one-way traffic to two-way. Okay, so Franklin Street corridor, the scope of work includes existing pavement marking removal, existing signing removal and relocation, install proposed pavement marking striping improvements, install proposed signing improvements, install new detectable warning surfaces at all crosswalk intersections within the project limits. Some of the other improvements here is going to be, and the project goals are going to be work within the existing curb lines while maintaining the planter boxes and trees within the existing parkway. We're maintaining parking availability with minimal loss to the spaces within this corridor. We're implementing safety enhancements throughout the downtown commercial historic district along Franklin Street, providing a family-friendly corridor where bicyclists can safely maneuver on the roadway instead of the sidewalks. We're strategically slowing down the traffic through the corridor to promote safety between pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles. And we're allowing for more businesses to be seen and supported by the locals and out-of-town patrons alike. Okay, let's go over some of the existing conditions as you guys are well aware. So Franklin Street is currently a one-way road northbound between 10th and 4th Street. It's a two-way roadway on Franklin Street, begins south from 9th Street on. Traditional diagonal parking within this corridor is 11 by 15 feet with 166 spaces and 14 handicap dedicated spaces. Brick paver sidewalk ramps currently have no existing detectable warning surfaces. It's an opportunity-filled business corridor that has great potential for growth, as you can see by a couple of these photos. You know, you've got businesses that are looking for folks, and then you have businesses that need new tenants. There's no designated, it's currently not designated as a bike-friendly route. And just a little tidbit here from a study done in 2018, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration found that 12,000 vehicles, which were considered non-occupants, were injured by vehicles backing up into the roadway, and 284 folks were killed in those accidents, which kind of leads us to our proposed improvements within this corridor. The scope of work included, as I mentioned earlier, and in a little bit more detail here, that in Franklin Street, we'd like to convert it into a two-way roadway for both northbound and southbound traffic between 10th and 4th. We'd like to restripe the roadway with a double yellow dividing line. We will be removing and relocating existing decorative stop signs, and one-way signs is required for the two-way conversion. We will be restriping all diagonal parking to allow for a back-end angle parking with additional signage for implementation. There will be 136 parking spaces, and we will maintain the 14 dedicated handicap spaces. Back-end angle parking will be 12 feet by 15 feet, which is wider than the existing conditions. We would like to add Sharrow pavement markings, which are the pavement marking symbols on the roadway, to promote cyclists to share the roadway and not ride on the sidewalks. You can kind of see a photo there. I know it's hard to see. And we would be installing new detectable warning surfaces at all of the crosswalks within the project limits for enhanced ADA safety at all intersections. And finally, we'd like to restripe the roadway with new crosswalks and stop bars. This is just a smaller example for the folks on the call, but for the folks here, that's the same set of plan sheet that's on the wall. Okay, so some of the challenges and advantages of proposed parking improvements, the back and angle parking. The challenges that we listed on here, you know, the community will need to adapt to the new concept with an initial learning curve. It's going to be a slightly slower process of backing into an open parking stall and slower traffic throughout the Franklin Street corridor. Some of the advantages that we've listed, this, you know, it's an enhanced safety for the vehicles leaving a parking stall. The drivers easily see oncoming traffic, including bicyclists sharing the road. It's enhanced safety for loading and unloading passengers or purchased goods. Doors open towards the sidewalk to unload passengers, and trunks are readily accessible from the curbside. We're intentionally slowing down traffic through the downtown commercial historic district, allowing for more eyes on the surrounding businesses in this area that may otherwise be overlooked. This encourages bicyclists to stay away from the sidewalk and to share the road. And we're restoring the two-way connectivity in the area. All right, here's a couple videos. Again, if it's hard to see, we can replay this for the folks here, and the folks that are on the call can see this hopefully pretty good. First video on the left is your typical issue with backing out of an angled parking stall, showing, you know, hard to see oncoming vehicles. So if you can play that video for us. It's not a very exciting video, but what this is detailing, as many of you guys have probably had in backing up from an angled parking spot, is not really seeing what you're backing into. That's one of the things that we're trying to solve with the back and angle parking. The next video, it is showing really is just the movement of backing into a stall and what that would look like should this be implemented. Again, the advantage is here. You have the curb behind you. Although it is a slower movement, it's not any different from a parallel parking maneuver where you first come into an angle, except you never straighten yourself out. You maintain that angle all the way up to the curb. Allows for your trunk to be on the curb side, allows your doors to open towards the sidewalk, which is certainly helpful with folks with kids or passengers being unloaded. Okay. Now we open it up for questions or comments from the group.
I just want to recap what you said about the difference between the backing out and pulling in, okay? Basically, you're saying that you're by backing into a spot, you eliminate the hazards that could be to persons and property and other vehicles,
That is correct.
okay? And basically, besides that, there's also the advantage of the convenience that a person would have to get into their vehicle without being concerned about being hit. Okay.
Correct.
And also the fact that you would have extra spaces for parking created by this.
So the parking spaces, we are maintaining the handicap spaces. We are losing some spots between the blocks. So one of the slides we mentioned, maintaining the existing curb. So this project is not touching any of the curb that's out there. So we're keeping within the curb lines. And it's all restriping. So the way the striping is currently, it's pointed one direction, we're flipping that. So we inadvertently will lose some spaces between each block.
Okay.
But we did focus on the handicapped parking spaces to be maintained.
Okay, then open it up for questions. Comments? Anybody?
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. I'm for bringing back the two-way traffic to Franklin between 11th and 4th. I think we've all seen all the great pictures of ancient downtown Michigan City from way back in the day and its heyday for kind of ruined it with Franklin Square. But I think that'd be really good. Even if it's just two. I think back then it was 2 lanes and they had parallel parking. And I dare say that I really strongly feel they need to bring back the parking meters. It was metered parking way back then. I think that would generate a lot of revenue. I think one thing we really need, if you go to LaPorte after a snowfall, there maybe 15 years ago, was back when Lee Morris was the mayor of their Downtown Merchants Association. They purchased 2 Polaris ATV 4-wheelers. It's equipped with a plow and a salt spreader that they use. And when it snows, they'll just go around real lickety split and clean all their sidewalks in their downtown area. And I think that's something that the Michigan City needs to bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Another point that I'd like you to clarify about the existing stop signs that you have. No.
Okay, so existing stop signs currently, if you're headed northbound on Franklin Street, there are 2 stop signs on both sides. We will be removing the stop signs on the left side, so the west side of the street, relocating that on the southbound direction to maintain the stops. We will be installing new stop bars also included in the new sidewalk crosswalks that we're.
Okay, and what type
restriping.
of stop signs are we talking about? LED?
We are open to putting LED stop signs to promote the, visibility of this 2-way conversion, similar to what's been done on Pine Street and Washington Street in the past projects.
Okay. Does that prompt any questions from anybody? Anybody interested in talking, getting up and giving us your opinion?
Yeah, Dalia Gigas, I'm with the City Council. I just like to say that one of the positives from this is that the fact that people are driving larger and larger high profile vehicles, they are a hazard when they're backing up and they don't see pedestrians, et cetera. This would really help them see pedestrians, bicyclists, other vehicles coming by. So I think that sounds like a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jesse Cundiff. I'm a downtown business owner, and I think the two-way conversion is awesome. I think it's great if we can get more traffic up and down Franklin Street and the safety as well.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? Any comments at all? Come on, don't you have any questions?
Good evening, everyone. Sham Khalil, 601 Franklin Street. I just have a question, I guess, between the curb to curb and the delivery that is going to be to the building or any of the, especially the restaurants, and even office spaces for UPS and FedEx. Do you feel that they can pass by the through traffic with the backup angle parking?
Yes, so I guess let me clarify. The question was, with deliveries on Franklin Street, would the delivery vehicles be able to still deliver and allow for traffic to get through? So current existing conditions, are they not pulling into a spot?
They are.
Okay, so they would be doing the same thing regardless of the back end. The back end spaces are going to be wider by a foot. So if it's a smaller delivery vehicle, we would, it would be nice if they backed in and unloaded to the curbside. I know that's a lot to ask for the delivery vehicles. We're planning on restriping the roadway so that there's a double yellow, which means vehicles technically should not be passing through. So, maybe some additional thought onto the allowable loading and unloading zones in this area.
And is it in one side only for the back end parking?
They're both sides, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Arturo Pozos, 514 Holiday Street.
Thank you.
With the stop sign, obviously we can very easily take the signs and move it to the other side because they have that black decorative post. If you were to do the LED, would that be able to retrofit into those?
No,
They matched.
I think we would want to match both sides, so we would have to remove both of the stop signs and put new LED stop signs.
Those signs are attractive in that area. I think that it, as opposed to the
Correct.
steel. Yeah,
the way the plans are currently, we have, based on the cost, obviously there's going to be a cost associated with that. The first option would be to reuse the existing sign that's there and just put it on the opposite side and match the decorative design. But the other option would be to replace them all with LED for high visibility and, the implementation of the two-way conversion.
Thank you.
Anyone else? What about the board? Does the board have anything to say?
I have a comment that there was a list dropped off at the clerk's office with questions, wasn't signed or anything. So, all it said at the bottom was, I won't be able to attend. Funny thing is, some of the questions they had on here, some of the questions that I had myself, and I'll ask them without the political overtone that this letter was written in. One of the things with current configurations, and I know we're looking at pros and cons and what some advantages to disadvantages. As we're driving down there now, as patrons in the area, we're looking for parking places. We have an option of parking places on either side of the road. When we change this, we only have options for parking spaces on one particular side of the road. And if we see one on the opposite side, we won't be able to get that until we turn around to come back. Might or might not be there by the time we do that. So I'm just thinking of that as one of the disadvantages. Just make it a statement. No need to try to explain, but I'm not going to read these other points because I think this was dropped off as a dig, somehow trying to, maybe it was Tom Crown, I don't know who it was, but anyway. Thank you.
Does that prompt anyone else to have question or comment?
Hello. Bryant Dabney, First Ward Council. What kind of cost are we looking at for this project?
This is funded by redevelopment, is it not?
So Skylar can maybe talk about the different pots of money better than I can, but in terms of cost, we're looking at the $250,000 to $350,000 range for cost. And if we do the LED stop signs, that's gonna have a minor impact. Those are approximately $2,500 to $3,000 for a new stop sign LED. So that would have a very modest impact on costs.
This is also part of a holistic project for ADA upgrades as well in downtown. So there will be some other things we do. As you might know, some of our sidewalks down there need to be repaired. So this would, we more than likely would approach probably city council as well to help us, maybe even ask them if they would match some of the money for redevelopment, but the majority will come from the redevelopment commission.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering how much the public knows about what's happening here. I mean, this is a big change in Michigan City. And I only heard about this 2 days ago. The meeting tonight was not well advertised. So I think for satisfaction of the residents of Michigan City, I think we need more time. I mean, this is not something you should rush through. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, but it just feels like it's a rushed job here.
Thank you. Would you give us your name? We didn't
Sure.
get that.
Martha Most, 10 Constitution.
Thank you. Councilman,
Paul Prespolinski, 1716 Washington Street, member of the Michigan City Common Council. Earlier, you mentioned the statistical report on accidents on areas. Was that on Franklin Street?
No, not Franklin Street. That's national
Okay.
specifically for back end angled or back into traffic. So your typical angled parkings.
Well, statistically, do we have the statistics for Franklin Street on how many accidents occurred down there? How many bicycles were involved with any kind of bicycle problems? Because I have a tendency to think and view this as Mr. Vinton did with pulling in and proximity and accessibility, because I will tell you that from my aspect, backing up is harder than angle parking. And besides that, I don't know, is that your premise of slowing down the traffic? So I'm gonna take a chance with somebody backing into somebody trying to get into a spot. So I'm on the thought process of keeping angled parking down there. And, that's one person's opinion, but I think it's a lot easier for myself and a lot of people, on stretching around and backing into a particular spot. That's I think it's a lot easier to pull in, angle park, get out of my vehicle. Do we have any reports on children or anybody being struck on the, any kind of reports on the traffic flow on that sector? And also, are we going to change all the parking then downtown to backing in parking? Because if you're just doing it on Franklin Street, I know we have it in the corridor over by Memorial, the Memorial property, but a lot of people don't use that. And particularly, is it in the manual, the state manual on backing up angular parking to pass the driver's test? I don't know. I don't think it is, but I'm just throwing it out there. I don't have a manual in front of me. I think that we need to look at a lot of these things. We need to make it easy access down there. And that backwards parking, as I can see, you guys are doing that to slow down the flow. But there's got to be different ways to slow down the flow. You're going to change the speed limit down there? Because I know that everybody, you know, they drive slower through that area, but usually people disregard the slower limits. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak?
Just real quick, you mentioned ADA. Are the pads included? I've seen a picture, the ADA pads are included on the
Yeah,
ramps for the
the
sidewalks.
detectable warning surfaces, yes, yeah,
Or the dots?
the dots, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna essentially be encasing that at the bottom of the ramps. So the ramps themselves actually are pretty much an ADA compliant. They're all brick, so we're adding that as an additional feature.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Janet Toyra Smith, 408 East 8th Street
Thank you, ma'am.
in Michigan City. A couple of points here. And I think you may need to look further beyond what you're just thinking about due to the problems we may incur. The big problem I see is right now, we can go down that one-way street. And if there is a UPS truck or a mail truck in our lane, we can switch the lane and go the other way around it and continue to travel on. I'm thinking for your deliveries, maybe you ought to set up delivery zones behind the buildings or in a specific area, because it's definitely going to block the traffic movement if you have one truck stuck there on each block or even 2 or 3 of the blocks. So that's going to really compose a big problem. Safety factor, I like it. I like all of that. Slowness, I like that too. But again, I concur. Not many people in this town follow the speed limit. I have stop signs 2 doors from my house. They don't even look at it. They plow through at 40 miles an hour. Another thing you might want to think about is your 18-wheelers. Sometimes they get lost and confused. What would you do with an 18-wheeler down there and people trying to get in and out of a parking spot? So you may have to look at the thing and say no commercial property or no commercial vehicles on this 8-block section or whatever we're doing. Just future thoughts.
Thank you. Anything else? You wanna wrap it up?
Sure. Leave next, we can leave information up to look there. Well, in terms of it's coming back. We'll take a minute at that time. Myself, I'll follow up with the department and discussion board about the access street in that door. We can turn the there. We want everybody for out here. We turn out tonight, and we get it. We want to get as much as we can and Right.
Minute. We'll put on there was this example presentation. We'll figure.
One point I'd like to make is this will be on the agenda for the Board of Works meeting on the 21st. It's, next Tuesday, meet at 8:30. You're all, anyone who wishes can come before us, and we can talk about some of these other issues if you want then. I thank you for coming. Is there anything else?
Just a few, two minor comments, if I may, Madam Chair. Our intent is not to slide this in. We want to feel this project can be accomplished before our peak season or the summer season. That's why we're looking at it right now. And a portion, fair amount of the cost is reworking the pedestrian crossings at each intersection. I'm a little bit confused on that because I've been led to believe in conversations with traffic knowledgeable people that the bubble are a mandated surface, not that are what we have right now, the ornamental inlaid bricks are not 100% compliant with ADA.
I think we've established that before the Board of Works meetings.
Okay.
You're correct.
That's a fair amount of the to this project. 5 blocks are reworked, 4 crossings per block, so that's crossings that are being reworked.
So in other words, the opportunity presents itself because we would be having to put in those ramps, okay, those crossings anyways, as long as we're doing that. And it's ideal to proceed with the two-way traffic conversion. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a good opportunity to accomplish both those tasks at once for efficiency.
And the next step, Brad, would be you're coming before the board asking to go out of bids, correct?
That's correct. We would advertising for bids later this month. The bid process on March with construction to begin in April and anticipate completion prior to Memorial Day beach season. So
Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.